Welcome to the Fantasy Football Units podcast. I'm your host, Alex Bruno, here with Jordan Hudson. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing good, Bruno. Going into week 2, I'm actually undefeated in a lot of my leagues, believe it or not.
Nice. How do you feel about the Thursday night game?
No comment.
No comment? Why?
I mean, the leagues that I have Chubb in was really, really good, but there were quite a few leagues I had AJ Green in, and again, no comment.
Yeah, that was upsetting to watch. But for you Odell Beckham owners out there, I'm sure you guys are happy he finally did something.
Yeah, please don't hop on the hype train.
Yeah, I'm still not looking to acquire him in anything.
Like, he's going to have to do that for at least like 4 or 5 more weeks before I'll be like, okay, OBJ's back.
Yeah, same with Baker Mayfield. How'd you feel about Joe Burrow throwing 61 times?
Why does he still only have 2 touchdowns for his NFL career?
He was under a lot of pressure. His offensive line isn't that great.
No, he was making a lot of good scrambles, though. He was looking really good, just making one little step and avoiding the pressure.
Yeah, that, and it's hard to get touchdowns when you have receivers that go 3 for 13.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like can we just move on from that game?
Yeah,
like, hopefully everybody else has.
Yeah, jumping into the news, starting off with Chris Godwin has been ruled out going into the Buccaneers matchup week against Carolina.
Good news for Mike Evans owners. Good news for O.J. Howard owners. Good news for Scotty Miller owners.
You think it changes anything for Gronk?
No. I think he still gets 2-3 targets a game. I think he's more just a decoy out there than anything.
Blocking.
Yeah, like I said, just a decoy.
Yeah. Next we have Michael Thomas is also ruled out this week going into the Monday night matchup against Las Vegas.
Well, that's really good news for Kamara owners, for Cook owners, and for your really deep league people, Traquan Smith.
What about Sanders?
I mean, it's only Sanders' second game in New Orleans, so I don't have too much opinion on him yet. Like, I don't remember quite how many targets he got last game, but I know he wasn't, like, the clear number 2 there. I would say Jared Cook and Alvin Kamara definitely take that role first.
Right, so this doesn't change anything for Drew Brees, really. He's still going to have options to throw to.
Yeah, I think they'll just run the ball more like they did last week.
Right. We have George Kittle ruled out against the Jets with a knee injury.
Well, seeing how he was like their only receiving option, I mean, Brandon Ayukin he gets to make his NFL debut this week, but we don't know how many targets he's going to take. Obviously, he's going to get a few more now that Kittle aren't there, though.
Right, it'll definitely leave a lot of opportunity for Mostert now, too.
Yeah, Mostert, maybe Tevin Coleman will come in and actually get a few more targets this game.
Right. Another injury, A.J. Brown out against Jacksonville.
I mean, he's their best receiving option there, Corey Davis, who I'm going to touch on a little later in the show. He's just kind of like been a no-show for his whole career. He's had a few really good games and stuff like that, but other than that, he's a no-show every week. Jonnu Smith's going to get more targets, and Derrick Henry might run the ball 40 times this week.
Yeah, so that means Derrick Henry could also get 200 yards rushing this week.
Yeah, and 4 touchdowns.
Right, that's definitely a possibility. We have Kenny Golladay out against Green Bay for his second week in a row. He's out.
I mean, I would say Marvin Jones and Hawkinson, but I think more Hawkinson than anything.
Yeah, Marvin Jones will probably be locked down by
Yeah, he didn't do much in week 1,
yeah.
So I think it really benefits Hawkinson more than anything.
Jack Doyle out against Minnesota.
T.Y., because Trey Burton's out too, so their tight end room's running on fumes, basically.
Maybe Nyheim Hines gets some more targets.
Yeah, Nyheim Hines definitely sees those targets first because he's the receiving back. Anytime you lose a tight end, those targets go to the running back before they do a receiver. So I see Hines getting the majority of them, but honestly, I think T.Y. will snag 1 or 2 of them.
What about Paris?
Paris, same thing. He might snag 1 or 2 of them.
Right. And last, we have Jamison Crowder out against San Francisco.
I guess it's the Chris Herndon show there now.
Yeah, or Rashad Perriman.
I mean, I guess.
Unless they throw the ball to Frank Gore. That guy's still playing.
God, he'll still be playing when I retire from this.
All right. All right. Moving on. We have our start sits for week 2. I have Traquan Smith at the Las Vegas Raiders or Scotty Miller versus the Carolina Panthers.
I'm gonna go with Tom Brady's Scotty Miller.
Yeah, Scotty Miller is the obvious choice for me as well. With Chris Godwin being out for week 2, Miller is going to take over as the number 2 receiver on the depth chart and possibly the number 1 target for Brady again. Even with Godwin, Evans, and O.J. Howard, etc., whoever else Tom Brady wants to throw to, Miller led the team in targets last week with 6 total. He hauled in 5 of them for 73 yards, and I see that target total rising to at least 10 to 12, and him possibly falling in the end zone.
Yeah, or he could just break one of those little dump off passes or slant routes and just take it, 60 yards to the house.
Right. Yeah, and he's already shown to be Tom Brady's favorite target. So I wouldn't be surprised if, he finished top 15.
What, this week?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that this week. I'm gonna jump into my first start sit with Hunter Henry versus the Chiefs or Evan Ingram versus the Bears.
I'm going to have to go with Mr. Henry.
Yeah, me too. Injury, no injury, a QB that can throw the ball, a QB that should be a backup, it really doesn't matter. Like, if Henry's on the field, he produces, period. Like, he led the team in receptions last week. He led the team in catches. He had 73 yards on 5 catches.
Okay.
Last year when they played Kansas City, he scored against them. He also had 5 catches for 42 yards against them. Being Tyrod's favorite target and, without a shadow of the doubt, with for certain, for fact, they're going to be down against KC. Tyrod's going to have to throw the ball more.
Yeah.
So that means that Henry's going to get more targets, so it's really just a no-brainer to me.
Right, and they're definitely going to have a lot of garbage time. So Tyrod Taylor's just going to be out there trying to throw the ball.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get down a few touchdowns and they just roll Herbert out there for the last quarter.
Right, and it might be early in the game that they're down a lot, so he might just finish with 15 targets or something like that.
That would be his. That would be a ceiling from a different universe, but I could definitely see 10, 11 targets.
Okay. My next start sit is Antonio Gibson at the Arizona Cardinals or J.K. Dobbins at the Houston Texans.
I got to go with the Baltimore runner.
Yeah, he's definitely on the better offense between the two. He fell into the end zone twice last week, and from what we all saw, he was favored as the goal line back over Mark Ingram. So it's starting to look like maybe they're going into the J.K. Dobbins show maybe after half the season or so. They're just easing him into it. I believe that he could get into the end zone at least once this week against the Texans. Dobbins had almost as many carries as Ingram, with 7 to Ingram's 10, so it's pretty much a 50-50 share. Sometimes they'll throw in Gus Edwards, but I believe it's Dobbins is going to take over. And with the Texans giving up 166 yards on the ground, I see both Ingram and Dobbins having success this week.
Oh yeah, for sure. My next start sit is going to be Corey Davis versus the Jaguars or Sammy Watkins versus the Chargers.
That's tough because they both did pretty good last week. They're both not the most consistent in receiving. But with A.J. Brown being out, I'm going to have to go with Corey Davis.
Okay. Well, let the record show that I don't really trust either one of these players to start week in and week out. But like you said, they both had good week ones. But I'm going with Corey Davis, and here's why. They're not going to have no A.J. Brown. That's the first reason. He finished last week with 7 catches on 8 targets for just over 100 yards against a good Broncos secondary. And now that Brown's out, he's going to have more opportunities, and he's going up against a weaker Jaguars secondary. So going off week 1 versus both of them, I got to try it with Corey Davis. I mean, Sammy Watkins definitely has the better targets coming from Patrick Mahomes, but I just see it going Corey Davis's way this week.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. My next start sit is Jared Goff at the Philadelphia Eagles versus Matt Stafford at the Green Bay Packers.
With those two, honestly, it can go either way. So you're gonna have to convince me on your guy.
No problem. I'm definitely starting Jared Goff over Matt Stafford. Facing the Eagles, who allowed 178 passing yards last week to Haskins, that should be no problem for Jared Goff to go out and throw for more. They have a weak defensive back core in Philadelphia. The Rams receivers should have no problem getting open or even finding the end zone. Goff's definitely going to get them the ball without a doubt. And as far as Stafford, he's going into Green Bay limited on weapons with Galladay being out. I mean, he does have Marvin Jones and Hawkinson, but Jones will probably be locked up by Alexander, and that just leaves even less weapons. There's a big question mark in that backfield. You don't know what's going to happen with them, so I just see more opportunity for Jared Goff than Matt Stafford.
Yeah, and Woods just got his payday too, so he's gonna want to go out there and show him like, hey, you paid me like you paid Cup. I'll show you why.
Exactly. So I see that game being more a high scoring game, to whereas I don't see the Lions moving the ball that much against Green Bay.
No, they're probably not going to be able to move the ball much through the air or on the ground, honestly.
Mm-mm.
My next start sit is Captain Kirk Cousins versus the Indianapolis Colts, or Matty Ice versus the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, considering he was the only quarterback to throw for 400 yards last week, I'm going to have to go with Matt Ryan.
Yeah, you're right. He is the only player to throw for 400 yards last week. He finished with 450 against the Seahawks. He had 3 different receivers go over 100 yards. I mean, if the man keeps throwing the ball for 50 attempts a game and getting these 300, 400-yard games, like, he's going to throw more than 2 touchdowns. Like, that number's got to go up to 3 or 4 eventually. And having superstar receivers like Julio and Ridley, Gage is looking really good. I think this is his 3rd year in the league.
Right.
And you also got Todd Gurley lining up behind you. He's got plenty of weapons on offense. The Falcons and Cowboys matchup is the highest under-over of the week. It's 53.5. The next closest game is 49.5, and that's the Texans game. Mm-hmm. Honestly, you should just sit back and watch Matty Ice just run up the points.
I like that. Yeah, Matt Ryan definitely is a good starter for this week. He's definitely going to be throwing the ball as much as he did last week.
Yeah, and I mean, especially against a Dallas offense that can put up points really, really fast, too.
Yeah, he's going to have to keep up. We have our streamers for week 2.
I wish I had some weird noise I could pull out that sounded like a streamer right there.
What noise do streamers make?
I don't know.
Like a whistling sound?
I guess.
All right. For my first streamer, I have Daniel Jones facing the Bears.
Okay.
He did pretty well, or not well, but he did decent against the Bears in only his 4th game of his career. He had 2 touchdowns and 150 yards. That's okay, starting. However, coming into this season, he is looking more composed in the pocket. He's making smarter decisions. He did have 2 interceptions on some dumb mistakes that he shouldn't even have thrown the ball. But you take those away, and he's a possible starter week to week. You don't even have to stream him at that point. And if he is in your waiver wire, I do recommend going to pick him up, especially if you have like someone like Derek Carr or some starting like that. He would probably do better than them this week. I see him finishing in the top 15 as a ceiling. He just take his mistakes away, give Saquon, let him do something with the ball. Maybe he does better, hopefully, and that opens up the options for Daniel Jones.
I mean, as long as his receivers and tight ends actually catch the ball and don't drop it so many times this week. I mean, he also would have had a lot better points had that not happened last week. I mean, even with the interceptions.
Right.
My first streamer of the week is tight end Logan Thomas for the Washington football team. Logan Thomas had a really quiet tight end 8 finish last week against the Eagles. He finished with 4 catches on 8 targets for 37 yards and a score. Week 2, he'll be facing a Cardinals defense that gave up pretty much the most everything against the tight end last year. They gave up the most yards, they gave up the most touchdowns, the most fantasy points. They were just really, really bad against the tight end last year. So every league that I'm streaming tight ends in, Thomas is my first pick this week.
Okay, I could see that. I could see him having a good week. Maybe as long as Haskins is on point.
I mean, Haskins wasn't even on point last week, and that's all it takes for a tight end. Like, you just fall into the end zone once, and you made it worth my while.
Right, and he's getting lucky with Washington already having nobody to throw to, really.
Yeah, it's just him and McLaurin out there.
Yeah. Since we're on tight ends, I'm going with veteran tight end Jordan Reed.
I love Jordan Reed.
Yeah, with Jordan Kittle being out and the 49ers
Jordan
already.
Kittle?
George Kittle.
Okay.
With George Kittle being out and the 49ers already running thin in the receiving department, Jordan Reed should see a lot of targets coming from Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a reliable target, catching 64% of his targets in the last season he played in 2018. Reed is a big target in the red zone, standing at 6'2", 242 pounds, and also has big playability. So don't be surprised if he scores a touchdown or two against the Jets.
Oh, yeah, that man will go up and just snatch it out of your hand.
Yeah, and he could take it 60 yards down the field on you.
That he can.
Yeah, so, and it's against the Jets. The Jets aren't really stopping anything.
No, I don't even think they could stop a cold at this point. I'm going to go in. I only have a couple streamers this week. I mean, yeah. And my next one's Mitchell Trubisky. True Chains Bisky threw for 242 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. Yes, that's his new nickname from me. It was against the Lions, but he's facing another weak defense in the Giants, so I expect more of the same. Mm-hmm. Trubisky can also run the ball. People forget that. He's averaged almost 5.5 yards a carry for his whole career. It's like 5.49 and some change. And being at home, the Giants should put up more of a fight against the Bears. So that should give Trubisky just more opportunities to throw the ball, more opportunities to break off for runs. I mean, he finished with over 30 fantasy points last week. He could easily do that again this week.
Okay. Yeah, not mad at it. Not a big Trubisky fan, but he definitely has potential to have good games.
I mean, I had him in a few DFS lineups last week for me, and it worked out great because he doesn't get owned that much.
Right.
And he's cheap.
Right.
He's cheap over there on DraftKings.
Right. I do have one more streamer. It's the Los Angeles Rams defense.
Okay. I want to hear this.
They're going against a weak offensive line in the Eagles that gave up 8 sacks last week to a subpar football team defense.
Football team?
And so Aaron Donald alone should be just by himself disrupting the backfield majority of the time, either getting a sack or forcing Carson Wentz to make a bad throw. And interceptions definitely aren't out of the picture for that Rams defensive core.
Defensive Jalen Ramsey lurking around back there.
Right, and the Eagles have nobody to throw to, and Wentz threw 2 last week already, so...
I mean, he only has those tight ends. That's basically it. I mean, Miles Sanders comes back this week, so that should level the playing field a little bit, but still, without a wide receiver 1 or even a wide receiver 2
right
in Philadelphia, I don't know what the man can do.
I don't see Jalen Reagor having that good of a week. He's probably going to struggle against this defensive back core.
Oh, yeah, because they'll probably have Ramsey on him, most likely, and Ramsey will just embarrass him.
Right, and Deshaun Jackson is just more of a deep target.
After last week, I don't know what he is anymore.
Right.
Is that it for your streamers?
Yeah, that's my last one.
It's your last one?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to break into... we did sleepers last week, guys, but we're going to kind of tone it down and do sleepers of the week. My first sleeper of the week is, for the 2020 season, is going to be wide receiver Will Fuller of the Houston Texans.
Okay.
Fuller is the clear number 1 in Houston after last week. I mean, they had 10 targets, caught 8 of them, finished with over 100 yards. He was looking good running his routes. It wasn't just 9 route. Like, right. He looked good. I mean, the matchup against the Ravens could end up being the highest scoring game of the week. It's the number 2 in Vegas for under-over. Watson's just going to have to throw the ball more than they normally do. They can't really count on David Johnson. Now that Duke Johnson is hurt, he doesn't really have a backup.
Right.
So I just see Fuller getting a bunch of targets and it feasting on them.
Yeah, I could definitely see that after last week. I mean, the Ravens didn't really allow much passing against the Browns last week, but it's Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, it's a big difference when, I mean, Deshaun Watson, did Deshaun win a Heisman too?
Deshaun Watson did not.
Okay, I was about to say, like, just because they both won Heismans, but Baker is not, that they're not even playing the same sport half the time. Baker only shows up every other week.
Yeah, when he's playing crappy defenses like the Bengals.
Watson shows up every week. It's just if his offense around him shows up.
Right, it's if they catch the ball and do something with it. and if his defense can stop the other team.
Oh yeah, his defense is definitely not the like Houston Texans defense of the past.
No,
Like J.J. Watt
they
can't
gave
do it by
everybody
himself.
away.
Yeah, Fuller's gone. All they got's Watson. I mean Watson. Well, Deshaun Watson on offense, but all they got is J.J. Watt on defense.
Right. For my sleeper of the week, I have somebody that people probably forgot even played on a team. It's Adam Humphries.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say Adrian Peterson.
No, people probably forgot about him too. But
Not the Lions fans.
right. And with AJ Brown being out for week 2, that leaves more target opportunities for Adam Humphries. Last week he finished 3rd in targets with 7 total, caught 6 of them, and finished 2nd on his team for receiving yards with 47. I could see his targets going up to at least 10 this week against Jacksonville. With the defense mainly worrying about Henry running the ball all over them and him having Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith opening up the field, it's definitely going to leave big play opportunity as well as getting in the end zone. He could take it down the field on you very easily.
Oh yeah, or he loves those little like when they're in the red zone, they'll do those little slant routes and run him up underneath the linebackers and stuff, and he'll just turn up because he can make those 10 yards before you can close in on his 5.
Right, and it's already clear that Tannehill loves throwing to him. So with having one more person taking targets away from him, it's just going to be a lot of upside for him.
Especially if you're in a half point or full point PPR format. I mean, he could get you 18 points just on yards and catches alone.
Yeah, and he's 9 times out of 10 probably still in your waiver wire.
Oh yeah, he should be.
So he's definitely, any mock draft or draft I've done, he's never gotten picked up. So make sure you go look for him.
Okay. Do you want to tell them a little bit about this new segment? Well, it's not really a new segment, but a new
topic.
Yeah,
we have our absolute unit of the week. So we are the fantasy football units. Our absolute unit is anybody. Really, it could be quarterback, running back. Doesn't have to be a sleeper, streamer, anything like that. It's somebody that you have faith in is going to exceed their floor that Yahoo sleeper or
whatever they're projected to. We think they're going to outperform their projections. We think they're going to go out there like you're going to start them in every league you have. You're most likely going to go grab them in DFS. Like this man's going to win you weeks or win you money, one way or the other.
Right, and he's just going to have like a 25, 30-point game
exactly
by himself. So moving into our absolute unit of the week, I have Todd Gurley.
Is he the 3rd or junior? It's like Todd Gurley the 3rd, isn't it?
Something like that. I think it's the 3rd. And coming out of last week, it was okay. It wasn't too.
Yeah, it was okay.
Wasn't too exciting to watch him play.
He looked like a guy with degenerative knee disease.
Yeah, and coming into week 2, he has a lot of upside facing the Cowboys. Dallas allowed 153 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns last week to the running backs.
To the Rams running back?
To the Rams running back.
So basically to Malcolm Brown.
Yeah, Malcolm Brown finished the top 10. I want to say 7th in standard and 6th in PPR.
Probably for one of the first and only times in his career.
Exactly. So that means Gurley could definitely finish in the top 10 this week. With Van Der Esch questionable to return for the Cowboys, it could be an easy run game for Todd Gurley, and he's pretty much the only person that runs the ball for the Falcons. Gurley scored once last week against a stronger Seahawks defense, and if Gurley could touch the ball at least 20 to 25 times, he could very well finish with 100-plus yards and score at least once and finish just like Brown did in the top 10.
Okay. All right, I'll give you guys my absolute unit of the week, and before I do, I swear this wasn't planned. It just kind of happened like this.
He's lying. He copied me, guys.
Yeah, I totally copied him. So I'm going to go the opposite end of the field, and I'm picking Zeke.
Okay.
So Zeke's just going to be eating bowls of cereal like every other time he touches the ball this week. Last week, Carson put up 24.6 fantasy points in PPR formats on only 12 touches. Like, he only carried the ball 6 times and caught the ball 6 times. Zeke's going to get double that just in carries alone. So last time he faced the Falcons back in 2018, he finished with 122 yards on the ground and a touchdown, adding another 79 yards through the air on 7 catches. So if you're in PPR format, that's over 30 points. Like, I'm putting Zeke in obviously every lineup I have him in redraft because I drafted him as my number 1 pick. But in every DFS, whether it's tournament, whether it's cash game, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm hammering Zeke into every lineup I have this week. I definitely think he's going to finish with over 30 points. Like, no doubt in my mind.
Where do you see him finishing?
RB1
RB1?
this week.
Okay.
Not for the season, just this week, guys. But yes, I think he will be the number 1 scoring running back in fantasy in the NFL this week.
Yeah, he's definitely going to get fed a lot.
Oh yeah, I see him touching the ball bare minimum 25 times, but I see that number being closer to like 29, 30.
Okay.
Counting like his receptions as well. Probably like close to 23 to 26 carries and another 5 or 6 receptions on top of that.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else?
No, that about wraps it up for me.
All right, that'll wrap it up for today's episode, Unit Gang. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your support.
Yeah, guys, make sure you check us out on YouTube. Make sure you check us out on Instagram, Twitter. We're on a lot of different platforms for listening to the podcast. Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you listen to a podcast on it, we're probably there.
Yeah, or we will be.
Yeah, we're just waiting for approval. They take forever.
And don't forget, it's not too late to ask us start-sit questions, lineups, anything like that. Hit us up on Instagram at @TheFantasyFootballUnits or Twitter at FantasyUnits, or you can email us at TheFantasyFootballUnits@gmail.com.
Yeah, guys, get in those questions up until the last minute. Like, I mean, we'll be answering questions up until 9:55 in the morning Pacific time. So if you're on the East Coast and your game's about to start in 10 minutes, DM us, get that question in. We'll answer it for you as quick as possible.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to help. Definitely.
Yeah, guys, we really appreciate all the support. Try to leave us reviews if you can, and can't wait to talk to you guys some more about football on Monday or Tuesday.
Yes, sir. Be well, Unit Gang.
Deuces.